Hello, hello. Welcome to this online classroom. My name is Jose. I am astrophysicist. I'm talking to you from Andoya Space Education. As you know, we love astronomy. We love astrophysics, and one of our main goals is to trying to use this fantastic subject in our teaching. So for this purpose, we have several tasks, several packages where we try to really use our astronomy knowledge to try to reach learning goals and to try just to learn about different subjects. This package we are referring to are calling Learning with the Stars. And in particular, in this introduction that I'm going to go through, we are going to talk about one task that is astronomy versus astrology. We have distributed this task together with others. And then the idea of this video is to help you introducing a little about this task itself, and then have you a little better prepared to later on go by yourself and with your group colleagues and go try to just complete the task. So about this task, what would we would like you to learn? So yeah, there it is. This is our main objectives. As you see over there, we would like you to increase the knowledge about what is science. This is our main focus here, trying to learn about science and about the scientific methodology using astronomy. Therefore, we would like as well to explore differences between the scientific method and other ways to understand the universe, to understand the nature. For example, the religion. What are the difference approach between science and other things like religion, like philosophy as well. Then on the way, we will learn a little about the history of astronomy, which is very special, very important, and give you a lot of clues for understanding science and the scientific method development. And we would like then to work a little with some very important skills for the students, skills for the young people, and skills also for the grown-up people. There are things like learn to think, things like critical thinking. Let's see if we manage to go through all these learning objectives we have ready for you in this task. And this is the first, I will say, beautiful slide I would like to present to you, because how many of you have been outside in one dark place looking to the stars? Maybe not too many, or maybe many, because I can tell you this is a great experience. It's an experience that in some occasions you're just overwhelming. You really became a kind of shock in some occasion about so many points of light there as you start thinking about how small sometimes you feel you are when you are overexposed to the beautiful night sky. And this is something that has happened through the history of the human beings. But lately, we do have problems because, as you see in this map of Europe, we have a lot of what is called light contamination. So it's light contamination everywhere, especially in the big cities. So when we got outside trying to look for the stars, yeah, there is not possible to do it anymore in many, many places because of this light that is like a big noise. So we are able to see only just very few stars. So this is something very peculiar that is happening in the modern times. And this night sky that has been a main driving mechanism to reflect, to think about ourselves, it really is not there anymore. We have somehow turned off this possibility. But this is just right now, because if we think about the history of the human, of the Homo sapiens even. We have been exposed night after night to the night sky. And I can tell you really that the night sky has been one of the main driving mechanisms to think, to explore the big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Where are we going to go after the death? All these big questions that afterwards have to just merge into religions, into philosophy. All these big questions have been driving for several millennials, just watching the night sky. So they will be always there. And I can tell you that for several civilizations, several cultures through the time, in the old times, where they have seen basically three things when they see to the sky. To the night sky, they see stars, like this point of light fixed in the sky. Then they see the moon, and then they see the planets. The planets look like the stars, like the brightest stars, but they were doing something very special. They were moving in a special way through the relative fixed background of a star, and that was really a strange meaning why that is happening. So there was a question that several cultures tried to solve. And then we have the events, and the events were very important, like, for example, the comets, and even there is record some supernova events. The comets always, they thought that it was some catastrophic announcement. So everything happened in the sky for several centuries and even millennia. All the people just tried to put some meaning, especially some religions meaning, trying to read there. We saw you some image there. There it is. Do you recognize it? I think most of you will recognize it, especially these days. We have sent several rovers there. We are exploring this planet very much. This is Mars. Yes, and this is Mars. And now we know very well the planet, and even as I told you before, we have several missions that are going there to know very well in detail, not only from the Earth, but even on the surface, to try to understand very well how this planet is. But this is Mars in our current understanding, in a current view, thanks to science and technology. But for several millennia, more than 95% of the time of the Homo sapiens, Mars has been something else. And I just put it one example. This has been Mars for the Roman Empire, not too far, too long back in time, just around 2000 years ago. For them, Mars, this point of light in the sky, they're related like a god. It was also, they saw that it was a little reddish point. So maybe that is why they thought that it was a god of war. And inside the mythology, they thought it was the son of Jupiter, that was the most important gods that they have in their mythology. So you see, almost all the different civilization has tried to explain the planets, tried to explain the bright stars, but putting us in the religion, in the myth, always giving a big impact to their own philosophy, way to understand the nature. And we are going to go even further back in time. And now we are even reaching our task itself. Because in our task, we said astrology versus astronomy. Okay, so let's talk about astrology. Astrology is a beautiful word. It's coming from astrology. Logy is coming from loge, which means from the Greek is coming the knowledge of. So the knowledge of astro. Astro, we can think about everything that is in the night sky. So this knowledge, the knowledge of what is in the night sky, the knowledge of the astro. Astrology is a nice word because when we have also words like geology, which we use in science, geology, the knowledge of the earth, biology, the knowledge of the life. So those are scientific disciplines, but we already are not so sure if astrology is a scientific discipline or not. This is something we will see. And therefore, in the modern times, we are using more astrophysics, or astronomy instead of astrology. But let's go to the historical approach. What that happens? So then we have to go in 2000 before Jesus Christ. There was a great civilization that were called the Babylonians. Actually, this civilization was great. They were for a long time, from 2000 before Jesus Christ, almost to the Jesus Christ time, around 60. And they were really a good observer of the night sky. They made several observations. They tried really to follow with a lot of dedication and as much precision as possible with the eye, because they didn't have other tools but just the eye. Where was the position of the planets, especially the planets, going through the background of stars? They thought that it was very important to have this knowledge, this systematic observation. So they really took note of this position in the systematic way. For the scientific point of view, we can say that even they could be the first scientists, in the sense that they were taking really a lot of data, a lot of observation in the systematic way. But they were doing this because of other reason, actually. They thought, as the Roman did afterwards, that the sky were hiding a lot of clues about the king, about how luck is going to be the people, about the faith, about the gods. So that is why they thought it was very important to locate where these divinities were placed in the sky, the path they will be following. Because then, for example, an answer to if we go to the war, is going to be our kingdom successfully or not. So maybe it was this information hiding there. So that was they made this systematic and very precise observation, trying to look for these answers. But you see, these answers are too much related to ourselves, to our kingdom. So that was the main motivation there. But they did, and in order to make it as let's say exact as possible, they really developed a lot of new tools. They divided the sky in 360 degrees, is the first time that this is mentioned, and then develop what is the zodiac belt. They saw that the planets were crossing all together the same path in the sky, all of them. Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, the planets that were known at that time, they were following and crossing always the same constellation. Constellation is an association of the stars. For example, they go through Virgo, through Leo. This they were going through, but not to other, for example, Ursa Major, other constellation. No, they were not in the path that the planets were going. So they divided the section where the planets were going through, divided in different more or less equal areas. And this is the horoscopes. Each of these constellation is one of the constellation that give ideas or give a name to our horoscope. So we can say that they really create the astrology because they want to see where was placed these stars, also the sun, that was very important, also the moon, in order to understand how they were affecting to the human beings, to the human person, and to try to give different kind of answers in this direction. So this is what is astrology, and something that is very important and that you need to take into account for the task is like the definition of astrology as we see it. What are the position of the planets? You know that, and then depending of the position of the planets and the moon, it gives an indication about ourselves, how it's going to be our luck, our health, our ability to find job. This is what we afterward read in the, for example, in the newspaper. This is written in the stars, and depending where the planets are crossing, so then it gives this, let's say, history of what is going to happen. But our definition, for example, I'm Capricorn in the classic reading newspapers because I was born in December. So why I'm Capricorn? why other person that was born in August is Leo. And that is following the definition of Babylonians that were who created the astrology. It's depending on where the position of one astro at the moment you were born, which constellation this astro were passing through at the moment you were born. Can you wonder which astro it was so important for the Babylonians that defined which is your horoscope? So yes, this astro is the sun. So if I'm Capricorn, that means that the sun at the time I was born was located in the constellation of Capricorn. The same for the other zodiacal, different. So this is the main definition, and this is something we will see and we will use to. We will use in our task. So yes, and that is a little of the introduction about astrology. Now we want to jump from these very old times, from these Babylonian times, and let's go to make a jump to the modern times, let's say to today. Because even if that was a definition that is very old and that has been used for a lot of time, you know, still we are using horoscopes quite a lot. We have all the newspaper, almost all the newspaper has the horoscope. There is more books about astrology than even about astrophysics. There is a lot of apps. There is really a lot of publications, a lot of things that are just meant into horoscopes. So there is really a lot of people that somehow they read and they believe in some grade and they follow the horoscopes. That is something that is coming from old times, so from 2000 before Jesus Christ, but still maybe it's more valid than ever. Maybe today it's the time that we have more people doing this than ever. But then we have in this task, we say, okay, but let's say astrology versus astronomy. In this sense, we say, let's try, is really astrology a science or is not? So this is something that we will try to do in the task. You will be working with this. But the idea is kind of simple. I will have a question. We will have a question is, does astrology work really? So then we say, but how is the scientific method? Because we are going to check if this is science or not. Let's use the scientific method. So the scientific method in the simple way is we make a question, something we are curious about something. Why the sky is blue? It's a question. Okay, so then we formulate that hypothesis. We think it is blue because of, and we formulate our hypothesis, our first explanation. Our question in this way is, we make the affirmation, the astrology is working. This is our hypothesis. Yes, the astrology is working. But in science, then it's not just the affirmation. It's not like to say the astrology is working, so we close the debate. It's not like that. This could be many, for example, in the Holy Book, when there is an affirmation, it is writing in the Holy Book, and therefore you don't question this affirmation. This is another approach. This is approach of the religion. But here in the science, you say, okay, you have this idea, and this is a very beautiful idea, but we need to test it. We do need to test it. And testing, how we test it? With observations, with experiment, looking for information, to try to questioning the hypothesis. And then you say, oh, that is working. I make my experiments, I pick up some data, and it seems that really is working. Very good. Then we are one step ahead. That means that this hypothesis is more strong. But always we are looking for further tests to really know if this affirmation, this hypothesis is really strong or not. This is how science is working. So we are trying to do the same with the question or the affirmation that we do, that is, astrology is working. So, so therefore, a very simple way I invite you to do could be the same. That's different possibilities, but one option for testing could be just for looking for the prediction, because astrology is doing predictions, right? It's doing, okay, next week, this and this is going to happen to you. This is going to be your health. This is going to be your lucky. You're going to earn a lot of money if you do this. You know, this is what in the horoscopes we managed to read. So astrology is too much focused in doing short time scale predictions. So in order that if this is working, those predictions, whatever we read, the prediction supposed to be coherent, right? All of them more or less has to predict more or less the same. So it will be very easy if just we can go to different newspapers, different channels, the more important channels, and we just compare the information. Let's say with 2 or 3 different newspapers say about my horoscope for next week. Wow, it's compatible, it's not compatible. This can be a very easy test we can do in order to test about how strong is the affirmation of astrology is really working. But then this is something I invite you to try to do. But we are going to use something else as well. Remember about the Stellarium? Stellarium is a great tool, really. The Stellarium is a tool we have been using in different tasks. You just can download this for free. It's open source, and it shows the sky in your computer, how the sky is from your place at a given time. For example, for tonight, I would like to know how it is going to be the sky, where the stars are going to be. More important, for example, where the planets are going to be placed at this specific time. So you can have an idea, a very accurate idea about this. But it's not only this, you can check with a Stellarium not only from your place, but you can select whatever place in the Earth. So you can even compare how the different skies you can see depending on where are you placed on the Earth. But not even like this is super powerful in the sense that you can choose when, not only from where, but also when. The more normal thing is you use Stellariums, for example, for tonight, to see my observations for tonight. Let's see what I'm going to be able to see, which planet, for example. But in addition, you can, for example, say, okay, how is going to be the night sky from my place in 500 years from now? We are going to be Mars tonight, but in 500 years. Then you can do it as well, and it's very simple to do it. And that is great because it's not only for the future. You can try to go to the past, and then you can see, for example, this time, this particular day, Galileo, for example, was observing the night sky this particular day. So what he was observing, how was the night sky? Where was Jupiter at that time? In the Galileo's time, you can do it here. And also go very back in time, even to the Babylonians, 2000 years before Jesus Christ, for looking how the things were going, were maybe slightly different. So this is great because you can make an exploration of the night sky, changing position, but also changing the time. And therefore we are going to use this because there is very good possibilities this open. And this is just an example. This I picked up from some years ago, 2017, and we read in one magazine talking about horoscopes, and it was about Capricorn. And then you see here it's in yellow. They said you get a chance to keep back and rejuvenate starting Saturday when El Sol shifts into pieces. This is to be a problem of translation because El Sol is in Spanish means the sun. So when the sun shifts to pieces. So, okay, that's very cool because I will feel younger starting on Saturday, which means the 19th February 2017. That was Saturday here. So starting there, I will feel a little more energetic person, better, because then the sun is changing, is shifting, and is going into pieces. Right, good. Since now we have a stellarium, we can check this. Is really the sun in pieces, going into pieces, in the border just starting to go into pieces? Is that going to happen? So we go to Stellarium, we can put this date and we check what is going on, what the reality is saying that really is happened at that time. So somehow we can check what the test is saying here, and we can, in this sense, give more strength or more weakness to the idea of, for example, this that we're starting with, that astrology really is working. And just to end, and that is something that you will check by yourself in the task, is about looking for your own horoscopes. Remember that the Babylonians defined that if I'm Capricorn, I was born in December, means that the sun at that time was crossing the constellation of Capricorn. And that is what defining Capricorn. This is the definition done by the Babylonians, who created astrology. So I did the task. You see here, it is the date, a time of my birthday. So I was 67, I was 25th December. It is there, around that time. So then I check in Stellarium, okay, what is the sun in this occasion? And you see something particular is coming here, that the sun at that time, it was not placed, when I was born, the sun was not placed in Capricorn. The Capricornius constellation is this red cycle, but it was placed in the just the next one, which is Sagittarius, which is the green cycle. So from this point of view, I'm Sagittarius. I'm a Capricorn. That is what, in the classic definition, when I'm reading the newspapers, all the newspaper everywhere, they ask me, I have to read, I was born in December, so then I have to read Capricorn. But Stellarium is saying something different. Something, no, you have to read Sagittarius, oh my God. Then that means that maybe I have been reading wrong my horoscope my whole life. What has happened here? So I would like to invite you to do your own case. This is well explained the step by the step in the use of a Stellarium to reach this result for your case in the task that we have given to you. And also there are some questions that we would like you to go through after just taking a look here. Because then some of the main thing is like, okay, it seems that we have been reading wrong, or at least for my case, you have to check your case. I'm reading wrong my horoscopes the whole time. But should I then still think that astrology is working? And then why? So yeah, there is some open question. Why still there is so many people that think that it's working? There's so many very interesting questions I would like you to go through. But those questions are also written there in the task, because it's quite exciting, this. So this is more or less from this Learning with the Stars session about astronomy versus astrology, where we have trying to do this, increase a little with this historical perspective about what is science, comparing the scientific method with another ways to understand the universe. We have on the way learned a little about Babylonians, for example, which is a little about an important piece of history of astronomy. And by completing the task, we really have to go a little with the learn to think and develop critical thinking. So I hope you will have really a lot of fun doing this task with, and just go ahead. Please send comments, and yeah, I will be here with you very soon with another chapter of the Learning with the Stars. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.